right. We are here with the man, the myth, the legend, and my dad, Milton Williams. So, Dad, this video has been requested more than I can remember, but the viewers often ask how all of these businesses got started, how they evolved, how the land progressed. So I want to go way back in time and talk about your life, because you grew up here on this property, right?
All my life, yes.
Yeah, just like I did, and Jackson is doing right now. He's down at the pond fishing.
Oh my.
In this windy condition. We were going to film this down at the pond, but it's just crazy windy outside, a little chilly too. So let's go way back in time. You worked for Western Electric?
Yeah, that's part of the Bell system. And I started with them in 1964.
64, okay.
64.
That wasn't your first job, though, but that maybe
No,
was your first real job?
I started off down at Bath Mill when I was 17 years old.
Okay.
Sweeping the floor.
I think everybody, so we live in the town of Graniteville. I think everybody at least worked at the mill or had family that worked at the mill. So that was your first gig.
Yeah, I started there. And then my brother was already working with the Western Electric.
Yeah.
And so he told me that they was having an opening for 3 people. And I needed to go and apply. And I went to Atlanta where I had to go and apply for it.
Right.
And I passed the test and they hired me. 1964.
So what was Western Electric at that time?
Western Electric is part of the Bell system.
Okay.
They manufacture and install all of the Bell system and AT&T's equipment.
Gotcha. So phone systems.
Yeah, everything. Everything in it. Any addition, anything that happens that gets more progressed through the time, like, touchstone, for instance.
Gotcha.
We went in there and we modified all the equipment to make it work with touchstone.
Okay.
So it's a lot of wires and a lot of equipment.
So what was you pulled wires? If I remember the story correctly, you pulled the lines across the country and through buildings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I had to pull cable, which was up about 12 feet tall, on the racks to bring it down into the equipment, and then I would wire it up, or somebody else would wire it up, and you just progressed on up. Finally, you get out of the cable pulling. Yeah. You get into installation part, and then somebody else comes in and starts pulling the wire. Yeah.
Probably not a fun job, I would imagine.
It was all right, but you know, sometimes I get up on the rack and I'm waiting on somebody else to pull the cable. Yeah. And he doesn't answer me. Uh-oh. I just lay there. Finally, I get down and go and find out why he wasn't there. Why didn't you pull the cable? Well, come to find out, he had fallen off the ladder.
Oh, my goodness.
And the ambulance...
That's a pretty good excuse.
Yeah, he had fallen on the floor off the ladder. Ambulance came and got him, and I didn't even never know it. I was still up on the rack. Waiting for him.
Oh, that's a funny story. Now, you met Mama.
Right? In the telephone office on Green Street. Yeah. She was an operator. And I happened to be working on that floor, and there was a lot of them. I mean, there was about over 100.
So if I remember the story correctly, Mama was working the switchboard, right? She was actually plug in the phone calls to wherever they needed to go.
Yeah, and she was so excited. At one time, there was an earthquake in Alaska, and it got busy. The phone switchboard would just light up, but people were concerned about people up in Alaska.
Really?
So yeah, she was interested in that. She had a good time, and so we started dating, and just progressed on from there. And
well, I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
Or else I wouldn't be here. So I'm glad y'all met. But so y'all met, and then of course got married, and then going back to this property that we're on right now that I grew up on. So my grandfather, your dad, Woodrow, owned a considerable amount of land right around here.
Yeah, he did.
And then so I guess let me back up. All right, so you're with Western Bell, living here on this property.
Yeah.
And then how did you make the transition to becoming an entrepreneur and going out into business for yourself? Like, describe that transition point for us.
Well, I worked for Western Electric for 15 years.
Okay.
And then in that time, Tracy was born.
Mm-hmm. My sister, who helps run the landfill. Yeah.
But Western Electric carried me out of town all the time.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I
worked in Miami. I worked in New York City. I worked in West Virginia. I worked all over the state of Georgia. So they kept me out of town, and I finally got tired of it because my kids were growing up,
Sure.
and I just got tired of going out of town. So I gave my notice to quit.
Yeah.
Ronald was in my brother Ronald had a supermarket in Graniteville.
Yep.
And he offered me a job to go in business with him.
Right.
And on halves. And so I did that, and I stayed down there for 5 years, running the supermarket.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, I quit after 5 years, and he had his son come in and take over,
Right.
and I was ready to move on.
I briefly remember the Graniteville supermarket because I was little. Right across the street was my elementary school.
Linda had to walk you across the road,
Yeah.
take you to Bird School.
Yep. And Mama also worked at the supermarket too, and she would cook short orders for the Graniteville mill. So Graniteville's infamous for its textile industry.
Right.
Tons of textile mills just everywhere. That's kind of all there was.
Yeah.
And so she would cook the short orders. You'd run the store.
Yeah, I would run the store. She would be the cook, and we had other help too.
Right.
And then Ronald and I worked 2 shifts. I'd come in at 6:30, work to 2 o'clock. That would be 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
The next week I'd come in at 2 o'clock and stay till 10.
Oh man.
And
that's some long hours.
That's when it was bad. Linda didn't like it. So after 5 years down there, I gave it up, and I decided not to do nothing for a while.
Okay.
And then Jill,
That's your other brother.
yeah, my oldest brother, he wanted me to come help him. Well, I helped him for a while, and then
And so what was he doing?
he was in landscaping.
Okay.
Yeah, he also worked for Western Electric. He was the one that
He got you the job, right?
Yeah.
So he was doing land clearing more
then
so, right?
He was doing land clearing on the side.
Yeah.
So finally he quit and went into it full time. Started his business, landscaping, dirt hauling,
Yeah.
just anything he could get a hold of. And so after that, I had an opportunity to buy his brother-in-law out,
Okay.
which was Williams Sand and Gravel, Gene Williams Sand and Gravel.
That would be my great uncle.
That would be your, great uncle.
Great uncle. Okay.
Yeah. Now, he had a business up there on Schultz Hill
Okay.
in Aiken, and it was very prosperous because he opened it up in 1952 when the bomb plant came in.
Oh, okay. Savannah Riverside is a local Department of Energy.
That's right.
Huge, massive site.
Back then, they had thousands and thousands of people coming into Aiken. I mean,
I read about it. Yeah.
They were renting everything they could rent. They had trailers. They was just sleeping in parks.
Yeah, they actually took over the town of Ellington. I read a story not too long ago of there was a town called Ellington, and they went in and said, all right, well, sorry, you guys, everybody's got to move. We're building our nuclear facility here. And then they built a town called New Ellington
right next to it.
To kind of replace it and give the folks a place to live.
Yeah, they moved everybody out. It's hundreds and hundreds of people.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
So anyway, I bought the old Williams Sand and Gravel, and I had 2 trucks, a front end loader.
Yeah, was that the old Michigan?
Yeah, the old
front end
Michigan.
loader. It's still sitting. I'll have to show you guys some other time, but it's still sitting back there. It's
that's what I started off with.
No cab. Loud as all get out. Had a Detroit motor in it.
And so I would load my trucks, and I started building my business up.
Okay. So y'all were mainly digging sand, clay.
Yeah, I would haul sand, clay, rock, anything I
whatever.
could haul.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it just started to prosper. My wife started building it up, and she was talking to the customers, trying to reach out and get more customers. So finally, we got a nice business going.
Awesome.
So I even expanded my trucking.
Yeah.
I bought a tandem, and then I finally bought another front end loader. Yeah. So it just progressed on up to there, and then we started digging on top of the hill, and it started making a big crater.
Gotcha.
So to speak.
This is after Granddaddy passed away, right, and left you this parcel of land?
That's right.
Okay. So you were mining up at Aiken.
Yeah.
And then you moved, after Granddaddy passed away, left you this land, and you came out here and started mining here because we're on, as you guys well know, a very nice sand deposit.
Yeah. So I created a crater, so to speak. And then in the mining business, you have to reclaim what you tear up and what you dig. You have to reclaim it, grass it, and maintain it for a few years.
Yeah.
So the person that worked with DHEC that was monitoring me, checking me, she says, why don't you put a landfill in here? I said, I don't care for a landfill. Well, go over here and look at Mr. Samples in Augusta and look what he's got, and you will change your mind. So I did, and I came back and I applied for the application for a landfill. And then it took me 2 years.
I remember
to get it.
Trying to get the permit for it.
Yeah, they finally told me if I didn't do something, the clock was running out and I'd lose my permit.
Because you actually hit the timing just right, because landfills, and for good reason, they don't want a lot of them around.
No.
Because, you know, that's why we try to recycle as much as we can, because landfilling is really old ways of doing things. But they were getting to the point, this was about 25 years ago, they were getting to the point to where they were realizing, hey, landfilling is not the answer. And so these permits, they weren't just giving them out. Like in the very beginning, you know, you could get a landfill permit here and here, and there wasn't as many folks around either. So you kind of hit the right timeline to get in right before the regulations really started to become stringent.
Yeah, I got it approved, and after that, they put a moratorium, I guess that's the word.
Moratorium,
on landfills. Couldn't have no more.
Right.
I mean, how fortunate was I? I got my permit, and then they couldn't have no more.
Yeah, it's almost like a legal monopoly.
Yeah.
You know, government, not subsidized, but government kind of helped you in that regard.
It did, and, but now it's still like that. But
it is.
It's still hard to get a permit.
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
Nobody wants a landfill. Ours is nice, and we keep it well organized, but you got some landfills that just bring odor, and people don't want them in their backyard.
Yeah, and I don't blame them, and that's why, you know, I've really, since you started the landfill, focused on recycling and trying to do something with the waste versus just cover it up and bury it.
Yeah, so we, I guess we probably have the best, we've been told by DHEC, that we have the best landfill anywhere around in Aiken County.
Yeah, that's got to make you proud.
It does, because we come a long way.
We sure have.
You was there in the beginning,
yep.
And I can't even think about how we started with a little old dump truck and a front end loader. And
it was a struggle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Remember that old pan you had, that Cat 613, I think it was, that 13-yard scraper pan? Boy, that thing would beat you to death. And then we had the old Cat 235 excavator.
Yeah.
Loading regular old tandem dump truck, getting stuck, trying to move material. It was very elementary.
We didn't know.
But we did it.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were doing.
And then remember that compactor we bought, that Dynapack?
Yeah.
It was so we bought a compactor that was made for road compacting, for packing roads. I put that thing in the trash. We ripped hoses all day, every day, because it had no belly pans, it had no guarding on it, and that thing was down more than it ran. We didn't know. Somebody told us we needed a compactor, so Dad bought a compactor at auction. We threw that thing in the trash and tore it all to heck.
Yeah, but you know, I paid, I think it was $55,000 at the auction.
Yeah.
And you know, I turned around and sold that. When I bought it, it had a head gasket. Was bad, so I got that fixed, and we used it for a while and realized it wasn't right for us. Yeah. I carried it back to the auction and sold it for $70,000.
Nah, you can't beat that, man.
So I didn't lose nothing.
We've been through some struggles. Matter of fact, one story I did want you to tell, Dad, about struggles. You told me a story when I was little about you having the dump truck and having to trade some of your tools for a quart of oil.
That was my pickup truck.
Oh, your pickup truck?
Yeah, before I got into business.
I got you.
Yeah, I was working for West Electric at the time.
Yeah.
And I was coming through Belvedere, and my motor started knocking.
Uh-oh.
And I looked, and the oil gauge was flicking. So I stopped at it's a sock station on 25 Highway.
Yeah.
I pulled in there, didn't have a dime into my pocket. So I started in, I was going to ask him if I could have a quart of oil on credit.
Right.
And the blue ribbon man just happened to be coming out the door.
He was your buddy?
And he knew my daddy, and he knew me. I said, hey, I'm so glad to see you. I need a quart of oil, and I ain't got no money. Can I borrow $1 from you? He said, sure. I bought a quart of oil and made it home.
Man.
Oh, and those were the days.
Yeah.
That old truck was knocking.
Well, good thing you had friends. So the reason the blue ribbon man was knew you is because Granddaddy on this very property had the Rainbow Falls. What would you call it? Was it a bait and tackle?
Well, it was a beer joint. You can call it that. He just had a local place where everybody gathered on the pond.
Had a dance hall in the back. I remember that in a jukebox and a little supermarket. And
people would gather there because it was on the pond.
Yeah.
And they would gather there. Some of them in the summertime, they'd sit outside in chairs and just talk,
right,
drink beer.
Yeah, and hang out. That was the place to be on the weekend. But just another little tidbit of history here on this property, because Granddaddy, I mean, he was an entrepreneur because he had the store and that's how he made his living.
I'd like to get into that story on another segment.
Okay, we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, part 2. That would tell me how my daddy got started and when.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And how the family got started and multiplied to be 7 children, and how we struggled to survive back in that day.
Yeah, you've told me some good stories. Well, y'all leave a comment below in the box and let us know if you want to see a part 2, and that would be interesting for me because I remember bits and pieces of what you're talking about, in my childhood, but Granddaddy passed away when I was I think 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
So I remember a little bit about the story and him, but that would be that'd be an excellent part 2. I like that idea.
Yeah, that would really put a highlight to how we got started. I mean, with the land.
Yeah.
And how he acquired the land. So we'll see you on the next segment.
That sounds good. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you got your permit from the state, and then we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to run a landfill. I remember going in the Yellow Pages. That's how long ago this was, and just calling anybody that was under waste or trash or whatever and say, "Hey, y'all want to come and dump in our landfill?" And they're like, "Who in the world are these people?" And we really struggled, and we almost went under.
Yeah.
For a little bit.
We did.
A special thanks to Mr. Bill Gibbs. So who knows? Maybe he might even see this. But
well, they came to visit me when they found out that I had a permit, which they know is hard to get.
Right.
And when they saw it in the magazine that they take for landfills and so forth, and they saw where I had just got a permit, they said, the light bulb went on their head and said, "Oh, we're going to see this."
Let's go talk to this old redneck, see if we can buy it. And so they tried to purchase the permit from you, and we didn't want to sell. So we said, "Well, hey, you guys come in here." Now, Mr. Bill Gibbs was one of the smartest business people.
Yeah, he was.
I've ever known, and he knew how to work a deal. But we wound up signing a contract, or you wound up signing a contract for 10 years of management, so that they could come in and kind of show us the ropes and get us established. And so I think that was one of the smartest things you ever did. It was a long 10 years.
Yeah,
but
was a 10-year contract in which I regretted. I had hoping that I should have went for 7.
Yeah.
7 is a number that's common everywhere.
I agree.
And I went for 10s, but anyway, he came up from Florida, him and Bill.
Yeah.
Bill was, Ted.
Yeah.
Ted was his partner.
Mm-hmm. I remember
And
Ted.
They came up and took over the landfill.
Right.
And they started running it. They started buying the right equipment. They started putting the word out.
Yeah.
They found that they got us some business. We got to digging. We got a new landfill. Got a big pit.
Mm-hmm.
And then it started prospering.
Yeah. And kind of the rest is history. And those guys, were strictly landfill folks. They didn't want to do anything with recycling, which, I understand. If you look at this business from a profitability standpoint, put everything in the hole, cover it up, and walk away.
That's exactly what they wanted to do. They didn't want nothing else.
Right.
They didn't want to sell the sand. They didn't want to wash the sand. And they didn't want to do nothing but just
Right.
fill up that hole.
And go to the bank.
Yep.
But and I can't knock them. However, you and I had a little different viewpoint because this is family land. We wanted the business to last as long as possible, and that's where I owe you a big thanks to helping me get my businesses up and running.
Yeah.
Co-signing loans for me to buy equipment and being able to afford the machines that we needed to take this waste that otherwise would have wound up buried and repurpose it like our mulch and our compost and washing the sand. And so after the contract was up, after that 10 years, then we really started focusing on recycling and making the business last because it is family owned. We are private landfill. A lot of you guys ask that if we're public or government owned or private. So we're family owned. We need the business to last as long as possible so that it can continue to support the family and all the employees that we have.
I want it to last as long as Jackson can grow up and have money. He can either work there or he can we can pay for his college out of the landfill. So that's what we were looking for. We just want the thing to last until till I die.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna make it last as long as we can because it sort of supports my sister, my niece, my family, you and Mama, and then all the employees that we have now with all the businesses. We're at like 75 employees now, which I never would have guessed in a million years that we would have that many employees and the businesses would have done as well as they have. But my hat's off to you. It really is for your hard work and then also instilling in me, those same principles and just helping me, man. I can't thank you enough, buddy.
You took off on your own and started screening sand. I believe that was your first one.
My first one, yeah.
And you bought the equipment. We had to get a loan to get that.
Yep.
But you've gotten bigger.
Yeah.
And when you got
too big, sometimes.
Yeah, but it's been a struggle. And no matter what we've done, we've struggled.
We have.
And now we're prosperous enough to. We don't really have to worry about it. We can sit back and enjoy.
Yeah.
But we still have to work.
Well, you can. You sit back and enjoy it. I still got to work.
Yeah, you still got to work.
But we're making strides there too, because I'm 44 now. You're how old?
82.
82. So I'm 44. You're 82, and I want to start dialing back a little bit, and enjoying life. I've worked really, really hard for a long time, and that's the one thing I owe to you too, is you tried the best you could to teach me a little bit of balance. You would take me fishing and take me shrimping, and we'd go do fun things. Even if we were working, I remember summers when I was off school, I'd go help you, and we would work a little bit and then go fishing in the afternoon or go to the garden. So you got to find that balance, and sometimes I work a little bit too much, but I think we're making the right strides right now to enjoy what we worked so hard for, and I know you deserve it because you've worked you still work.
Yeah,
everybody on the videos, y'all see Dad, he's all the time riding around working.
Well, my goal was to retire at 55.
Yeah.
That was foolish. So then I moved it up to 65, and I was going to draw my Social Security.
Yeah.
That was wrong. I worked till 75. And now I'm
still working.
85. I guess I'll be working 95.
Maybe you can retire at 85. Let's
try.
set a goal for that. 3 more years, and you need to retire at 85.
Yeah, that would be my goal. Yeah, 85.
Well, Dad, I sure appreciate you, man, for everything. I really, really do.
Yeah.
And, man, I wouldn't be who I am without your guidance and without your help. So I love you. I appreciate you. And I can't thank you enough for all the opportunity that you've given me. And, you know, this YouTube thing, I mean, this was born from, you know, just being able to have the businesses. And I can't believe now we've got almost 55,000 subscribers here on our YouTube channel. It's just amazing. You know, when you set your mind to something and you just, I think persistence and perseverance are some of the biggest keys in being an entrepreneur, and no matter what you do. And not even just being an entrepreneur, but just being, you know, a hard worker, just being able to have that perseverance. If you have a dream and you got a goal, you just got to stick with it. And
You know,
sometimes you think you're going to fail, and sometimes you do fail, but you got to pick yourself up and try again.
I used to could. It was spelled entrepreneur.
Yeah, I still can't.
I'm proud of you, Ryan.
thanks, Pop.
You've done good, and I'm really proud of
Well,
you.
I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, and I appreciate everything, bud.
You've taken over, and that's what my whole dream was, for you to take over and just do what you love to do.
Yep. Well, that's what I'm working on.
If you didn't love it, you wouldn't be here.
That's true. And like you've always told me, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life.
That's true.
And so, well, I love you, buddy. I appreciate you very much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, drop us a comment down if you want a part 2, and we'll see if we can't make that happen. But appreciate all of you guys, because if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And just appreciate the heck out of you guys' support. It means the world to me, and I can't thank y'all enough. So until part 2, we'll see you on the next video.